I came home to silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that feels wrong, like the house is holding its breath. My husband's car wasn't in the driveway. His running shoes weren't by the door. The coffee mug he always left on the counter, gone. And that's when I saw the note. Actually, no. That's a lie. I didn't see the note right away. I saw the empty space where our wedding photo used to sit on the mantel. 23 years of marriage, reduced to a dust outline on the wood. That's what I noticed first. And if you've ever walked into your own home and felt like a stranger there, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Drop a comment and let me know where you're watching this from, because I want to know I'm not alone in this. The note was on the kitchen island, folded once, my name written in his handwriting across the front. Diane. Not D. Not Love. Just my full name, like I was a business associate he was formally resigning from. My hands shook as I opened it. The words blurred together at first, but certain phrases punched through. Asterisk, need to be honest with myself, haven't been happy in years. Sasha understands me in ways you never could, already made arrangements, asterisk. Sasha, his personal trainer, the 29-year-old with the high ponytail and the bright smile who I'd paid, session after session, to help my husband get healthy after his heart scare 2 years ago. I'd sent her a thank you card last Christmas. I'd recommended her to my book club friends. And now she was the woman my husband was choosing over me. But here's the thing that made my knees buckle. It wasn't just the affair. It was the next line. Asterisk, I've withdrawn the funds from various accounts to start fresh. You'll need to speak with a lawyer about next steps. Asterisk. Various accounts. I grabbed my phone with shaking fingers and opened our banking app. Joint checking. $319. That was it. I logged into the savings account we'd built over 2 decades. Empty. I checked our investment portfolio. Cleared out. And then, with my heart hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears, I checked our son's trust fund. The account we'd been contributing to since Ethan was born. The money meant for his future, his education, his safety net. $0.00. I called Ethan immediately. He was 26, living in Seattle, working as a software engineer at a tech startup. He answered on the second ring, his voice bright and easy. When I told him what his father had done, there was a pause. Not the shocked, devastated pause I expected. Just quiet. And then he said something that stopped my spiral completely. Mom, relax. I saw this coming. I laughed. It came out sharp and bitter, almost hysterical. You saw this coming? Ethan, your father just stole everything we had, including your entire trust fund, and ran off with a woman half his age. How could you possibly have seen this coming? Because I moved the money, Mom. 3 months ago. The kitchen tilted. I gripped the counter to steady myself. What are you talking about? Dad's been acting weird since January. Secretive phone calls, suddenly obsessed with getting in shape, talking about living authentically, and all this midlife crisis stuff. I ran some searches on his laptop when I visited for Thanksgiving. I know, invasion of privacy, whatever, but I found emails. Plans. He'd been researching how to liquidate assets without alerting a spouse. He was talking to divorce lawyers in Florida. So I called the bank, verified my identity as the account holder, and transferred everything to a separate account he doesn't know about. I couldn't speak. My son, my careful, methodical, quietly brilliant son, had protected us while I'd been completely blind. Mom, are you still there? I'm here, I whispered. Ethan, I don't even know what to say. Don't say anything yet. Just breathe. I'm going to book a flight home tonight. We're going to handle this together. But Mom, his voice softened, and I heard the little boy he used to be underneath the capable man he'd become. I'm really sorry. I wanted to be wrong. I kept hoping I was just being paranoid. After we hung up, I sat on the kitchen floor and cried. Not just for the marriage that had disintegrated, but for the years I'd spent believing in a man who'd been planning his exit strategy while I'd been planning our retirement. I cried for the version of myself who'd trusted so completely that she'd missed every single red flag. And I cried because my son had been carrying this burden alone, watching his father's betrayal unfold, trying to protect me from a distance. But underneath the grief, something else was building. Something cold and sharp and focused. Richard thought he'd won. He thought he'd taken everything and left me with nothing. He had no idea what was coming. If you've ever been blindsided by someone you loved, someone you built a life with, you'll understand why I couldn't just let this go. This story gets darker before it gets better, so make sure you're subscribed and check the description box below for more stories like this one. Because what happened next? Even I didn't see it coming. That night, I couldn't sleep. I walked through our house, my house now, I guess, and saw our life in pieces. The photos on the walls that suddenly looked like lies. The furniture we'd picked out together. The garden I'd spent 15 years cultivating while he'd apparently been cultivating an escape plan. Every corner held a memory that now felt contaminated. I made coffee at 3 in the morning and opened my laptop. I needed to understand the scope of the damage. I logged into every account I could access, took screenshots of everything, and started a spreadsheet. Richard had been thorough, I'd give him that. He drained our joint accounts, cashed out the investments, and even somehow accessed my individual retirement account. How had I not noticed the paperwork? Had I been that checked out? Or had he forged my signature? That thought sent a chill through me. Forgery was a crime. But proving it, that was another matter. My phone buzzed with an email notification. My heart jumped, irrationally hoping it might be Richard, saying it was all a mistake, that he was coming home. Instead, it was from our mortgage company. A payment was due in 2 weeks. $2,800. I had $319 to my name. I grabbed a notepad and started making lists. What I knew. What I needed to find out. Who I needed to call. I was a paralegal at a family law firm. The irony wasn't lost on me, so I understood the mechanics of divorce. But understanding it professionally was different from living through it. Different from being the one sitting across from the lawyer, explaining how your husband of 23 years had systematically dismantled your financial security while you'd been buying his favorite coffee creamer and folding his laundry. At 5 in the morning, my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered it anyway. Mrs. Patterson? This is Officer Mendez with the Portland Police Department. I'm calling about a vehicle registered to Richard Patterson. Has your husband been in an accident? My breath caught. I don't know where my husband is, officer. Why? What happened? The vehicle was found abandoned at PDX Airport late last night. Keys were left in the ignition. We're trying to locate Mr. Patterson to verify everything's okay. So he'd flown somewhere. With her. With my money. He's fine. I heard myself say, my voice flat. He left me yesterday. I assume he took a flight with his girlfriend. There was a pause. I'm very sorry to hear that, ma'am. We'll close the welfare check. If you need assistance with any legal matters, I can provide you with some resources. After we hung up, I sat in the growing dawn light and felt something shift inside me. Richard hadn't just left me. He'd abandoned his car at the airport like it was trash. Like everything we'd built was disposable. Like I was disposable. By the time Ethan arrived that afternoon, I had a plan forming. But I didn't tell him yet. I just held my son and let him make me tea and remind me that I wasn't alone. That I'd never been as alone as Richard had tried to make me. The money's safe, Ethan said, pulling up his banking app on his phone. Every penny of the trust fund. He can't touch it. How much was in there? I asked, realizing I didn't actually know the exact amount. With interest and the automatic contributions over the years? About $240,000. I closed my eyes. $250,000. Money Richard thought he'd taken. Money he'd probably already spent in his mind, or promised to Sasha, or planned to use to fund whatever delusional second act he'd imagined for himself. He's going to look for it, I said quietly. When he tries to access it and realizes it's gone, he's going to panic. Ethan nodded. Yeah, I figured. That's actually part of why I moved it. I wanted to make sure he couldn't use it as leverage against you, or try to claim it was marital property or something. Is it? Marital property? Ethan shook his head. I checked with a lawyer friend. It's in my name. Has been since I turned 18. The contributions you and Dad made were gifts. Gifts can't be reclaimed in a divorce. It's mine, legally speaking. Which means it's safe. I looked at my son, this young man who'd somehow become my protector, and felt a surge of fierce pride mixed with guilt that he'd had to step into this role at all. We're going to be okay, Mom, he said, squeezing my hand. I promise. I wanted to believe him, but I also knew that Richard wasn't going to accept this quietly. Men like him, Men who spent months planning a secret exit, who stole from their own child. They didn't react well when their plans fell apart. I just didn't know yet how spectacularly his plan was about to implode. 3 weeks passed. 3 weeks of lawyer consultations, sleepless nights, and the surreal experience of explaining to friends and family that my marriage had ended not with a conversation, but with theft and abandonment. Some people were supportive. Others, especially the ones who'd always seen Richard as charming and successful, looked at me with barely concealed skepticism, as if I must have done something to drive him away. My sister Jessica was the worst. She showed up unannounced on a Tuesday evening with a casserole and opinions. "I just think," she said, settling onto my couch like she was preparing for a long intervention, "that you should consider what role you played in this. Marriages don't just fall apart, Diane. Maybe he felt neglected. Maybe you stopped making an effort." I stared at her. "He emptied our bank accounts and stole our son's college fund, Jess. This isn't about me not wearing lingerie enough." She flinched but pressed on. "I'm just saying, men have needs. Emotional needs. And you've always been so focused on your work, so independent. Maybe he felt pushed away." I wanted to scream. Instead, I said very calmly, "Get out of my house. Diane, get out." After she left, I sat in my living room and felt the loneliness settle over me like a physical weight. This was what betrayal did. It didn't just destroy your relationship with the person who hurt you. It fractured everything around it. Who could I trust? Who would believe me? Who would stand by me when things got uglier? Because I knew they would get uglier. Richard still hadn't tried to contact me. Not a call, not a text, not even a forwarded address for legal papers. My lawyer had sent documents to his office, but they'd been returned. He'd resigned from his position as a financial consultant the week before he left. Another detail he'd planned meticulously while I'd been living in oblivious domesticity. Ethan called every morning and every night. He'd extended his stay, working remotely from my guest room, his presence a steady comfort. But I could see the anger simmering underneath his calm exterior. This was his father who'd betrayed us both. His father who'd stolen from him and then vanished like a coward. "Have you heard anything from him?" Ethan asked one morning over coffee. I shook my head. "Nothing. It's like he's erased us completely. He's probably in Florida. That's where most of the lawyers he'd been contacting were based. My guess, he and Sasha are living it up on the money he stole, thinking he got away clean." The thought made my stomach turn, but it also sharpened my resolve. He doesn't know about the trust fund yet. "No," Ethan said, his expression darkening. "But he will soon. The quarterly statements go out next week. When he tries to check the balance and sees it's been moved, he's going to lose his mind." "Good," I said, and I meant it. Let him panic. Let him feel even a fraction of the fear and helplessness he'd inflicted on me. But here's what I didn't anticipate, and if you've ever dealt with a narcissist, you'll know this is classic. Richard didn't just panic. He went nuclear. The call came on a Thursday afternoon. I was at work, trying to focus on a custody dispute case that felt uncomfortably close to my own situation, when my phone lit up with a number I didn't recognize. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Diane." His voice. After 3 weeks of silence, there it was, tight with barely controlled fury. "Richard." I kept my voice level, professional. I'd practiced this moment in my head. "I was wondering when you'd call. What the hell did you do with Ethan's trust fund?" There it was. No apology. No explanation. Just immediate accusation. As if I was the one who'd stolen something. "I didn't do anything with it." "Why? Were you planning to steal that too?" "Steal? Jesus, Diane, it's community property. I'm entitled to half of everything we've built together." The audacity made me laugh out loud. "You withdrew every cent from our accounts without telling me, resigned from your job, abandoned your car at the airport, and disappeared with your mistress. You don't get to talk to me about entitlement." "She's not my mistress. I genuinely don't care what you call her, Richard. What I care about is that you stole from our son. Your son. Did you even think about what that money was supposed to be for? His future. His security. That money is part of our marital assets. The contributions we made are legally half mine, and I need access to that account. Now." His voice had taken on that edge I remembered from arguments, the one that used to make me back down, smooth things over, apologize for things that weren't my fault just to keep the peace. Not anymore. No. Silence. Then, what did you say? I said no. You can't have it. It's not your money anymore. It's Ethan's. Legally, completely, irrevocably his. And he's made it very clear you're not getting a penny. I could hear him breathing hard on the other end. You turned him against me. I didn't have to. You did that yourself when you decided to rob your own child. I want to speak to him. Put Ethan on the phone. He doesn't want to talk to you. Diane, I'm warning you. Warning me? What are you going to do, Richard? Steal more money? Oh, wait, there isn't any left for you to take. You already cleaned us out. My voice was rising now, all the rage and hurt I'd been containing finally breaking through. You spent 23 years with me. You watched me build a career, raise our son, take care of your mother when she was dying, support you through every failure and setback. And this is how you repay that loyalty, by treating me like an ATM you could drain and discard. You have no idea what it's been like, he said, his voice shifting to something pleading, almost pathetic. Living with you, feeling invisible, watching you just coast through life without any passion or excitement. So you stole from me, from your son. That was your solution to feeling invisible. I took what was mine. I earned that money too, Diane. I built that nest egg as much as you did. And now you and Ethan are conspiring to keep it from me, to punish me for finally choosing happiness. The delusion was breathtaking. You earned it, with the job you quit without telling me. You built it, with the accounts you drained in secret. Richard, you don't get to rewrite history just because you're sleeping with someone who wasn't alive when we got married. He made a sound, something between a laugh and a growl. This isn't over. I have a lawyer, a good one, and we're going to fight you on every single asset. You think you can just keep me from what's mine. You're going to regret this. Probably, I said quietly, but not as much as you're going to regret what happens next. I hung up. My hands were shaking. Across the office, my colleague Miranda was staring at me with wide eyes. I realized the entire floor had probably heard my side of the conversation. That was him, she asked. I nodded. What a piece of work. She came over, perched on the edge of my desk. Listen, my cousin went through something similar. Her ex tried to drain everything. Turned out he'd been planning it for over a year. But she documented everything, got a forensic accountant involved, and the judge absolutely destroyed him in court. I can get you her lawyer's information if you want. That would be great, I said, surprised by the offer of help. Thank you. Women have to stick together, Miranda said firmly. Especially when dealing with assholes like that. I realized something in that moment. Richard had tried to isolate me, to make me feel alone and helpless. But I wasn't. I had Ethan. I had colleagues who'd witnessed my professionalism and integrity. I had a career I'd built independently. And I had the truth on my side. If you've ever had to rebuild your life after someone tried to destroy it, you know that moment when you stop feeling like a victim and start feeling like a survivor. That was my moment. And if you're still with me in this story, do me a favor, drop a like and check the description box for more stories about people who fought back. Because this was just the beginning. That evening, Ethan came home with takeout and a laptop full of research. He'd been digging into Richard's digital trail, emails, social media, anything he could access from old shared accounts. What he found made us both pause. Mom, look at this. He turned his laptop toward me. It was Sasha's Instagram, which she'd made public. Photos of her and Richard on a beach somewhere tropical. Her in a bikini, him in board shorts that were at least a decade too young for him, both of them holding colorful drinks with umbrellas. The caption, living our truth. When you know, you know. 2 hearts palm tree sparkles. The comments were a mix of supportive friends and pointed criticism. But what caught my attention was the location tag, Key West, Florida, and the date of the photos, 5 days ago. They're flaunting it, Ethan said, his voice tight. He stole from us, and he's posting vacation photos like he's some kind of inspirational figure. I studied the images. Richard looked different. Tan, yes, but also somehow diminished. His smile was too wide, forced. And in one photo, where Sasha was looking at the camera, he was looking at her with an expression I recognized, desperation masked as adoration. She's 29, I said slowly, And he's 52. She's with him for the money, Ethan. Obviously. No, I mean what happens when the money runs out? When he realizes that $240,000 he thought he had access to is gone. When she realizes he's not actually the wealthy, successful man he probably told her he was. Ethan's eyes widened. You think she'll leave him? I think she'll destroy him. Women like that. And I'm not judging, I'm just observing. They don't stay when the resources dry up. Richard built her a fantasy with our money. When that fantasy collapses, so will their relationship. We sat in silence for a moment, both of us processing what that meant. Part of me felt a dark satisfaction at the thought of Richard's grand romantic gesture imploding. But another part, the part that had loved him for over 2 decades, felt a strange pity. He's going to call again, Ethan said. When he realizes the money's really gone and he can't get it back. He's going to get desperate. Let him, I said. But even as I said it, I felt a tremor of unease. Because desperate people did unpredictable things. And Richard had already proven he was capable of betrayal. What else was he capable of? I didn't have to wait long to find out. The second call came at 2 a.m. I woke to my phone vibrating on the nightstand, Richard's name glowing in the darkness. I almost didn't answer. But something in me, maybe the part that still remembered the man I'd married before he became the stranger, made me pick up. Diane. His voice was wrong. Slurred, maybe drunk. Definitely unstable. Diane, I need to talk to Ethan. It's 2 a.m, Richard. He's asleep. Wake him up. This is important. This is... Diane, I need that money. I need him to transfer it back. Please. The please caught me off guard. Richard didn't beg. Richard negotiated, manipulated, demanded. But he didn't beg. What's going on? Nothing. Everything's fine. I just need to talk to my son. I need him to understand that this was all a misunderstanding. I wasn't trying to hurt him. I was in a bad place, and I made some mistakes, but I can fix it. I just need access to that account. Richard, you're not making sense. I'm making perfect sense. The desperation cracked into anger. You poisoned him against me. You and your holier-than-thou attitude. You couldn't stand that I finally found someone who appreciates me, who doesn't make me feel like a failure every damn day. I never made you feel like a failure. You did that yourself. Fuck you, Diane. Just fuck you. Put Ethan on the phone. I hung up. My heart was pounding. Something was wrong. Something beyond the obvious catastrophe he'd already created. I checked Sasha's Instagram again. She'd posted a new story 2 hours ago. A selfie, alone, looking sad. Caption: sometimes the hardest thing is knowing when to walk away. Trust your gut. Broken heart. She'd left him, or was about to. I got out of bed and went to Ethan's room, knocked softly. He answered immediately, already awake. Was that Dad? Yeah. He's spiraling. Ethan's jaw tightened. Good. Ethan. No, Mom. I'm sorry, but good. He deserves to spiral. He deserves to feel exactly what he put us through. I couldn't argue with that. But the unease in my chest was growing. I think Sasha left him. Ethan pulled out his phone, checked her Instagram, and let out a low whistle. Damn. Yeah. She's definitely done with him. He scrolled further. And look, she's back in Portland. Posted from a gym here 3 hours ago. She flew home and left him in Florida. Without the money. Without his safety net. Without anything. He's going to come back, I said quietly. Let him. We'll be ready. But ready for what? I didn't know. And that uncertainty kept me up the rest of the night, listening to every sound in the house, half expecting Richard to appear in the doorway despite the fact that he was supposedly in another state. The third call came the next afternoon. This time, he sounded different again, not drunk, not angry. Eerily calm. Diane, I need you to listen to me very carefully. I'm listening. I know you think I'm the villain in this story. I know you've made me out to be this monster who abandoned his family. But that's not what happened. I've been unhappy for years, and I finally had the courage to leave. The money, that was mine to take. I earned it, and the trust fund is legally marital property until Ethan removes my name as a contributor. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to tell Ethan to transfer half of that money, $120,000, into an account I'll provide. You're going to do this quietly, without involving lawyers or making this into some dramatic court battle. And in return, I'll sign whatever divorce papers you want. Clean break. No alimony claims, no asset disputes. We both walk away. I almost laughed. Or what? Excuse me. Or what, Richard? What happens if I refuse? Silence. Then, I know things, Diane. Things about your job, about how you've been, let's say, flexible with client confidentiality. About the case last year where you shared information you shouldn't have. I kept quiet because you were my wife. But if you force my hand, I'll report you. You'll lose your license, your career, everything you've built. My blood went cold. He was talking about the Mitchell case, a custody dispute where I'd inadvertently mentioned details to a colleague who turned out to be friends with the opposing party. It had been a mistake, quickly corrected, no harm done. But Richard was right that it had been a violation of protocol. If reported, even if ultimately dismissed, it could stain my reputation permanently. You wouldn't, I said, but my voice betrayed my fear. Try me. I'm giving you 48 hours, Diane. Get me that money, or I burn your career to the ground. And trust me, at 52 with no income and a professional scandal, you won't recover. You'll lose the house, your respect, everything. Is Ethan's inheritance really worth that? He hung up before I could respond. I sat frozen in my office chair, my mind racing. This was extortion. Clear, illegal extortion. But proving it was another matter. And even if I could prove it, the damage to my reputation might happen before any legal consequences caught up with Richard. He knew exactly what he was doing, attacking the one thing I'd built independently of him, the one piece of my identity that was solely mine. I called Ethan immediately. We have a problem. After I explained the call, there was a long silence on his end. Then, he's bluffing. What if he's not? Mom, listen to me. Dad is desperate. He has no money, no job, no girlfriend anymore. He's in Florida with probably whatever cash he could withdraw before the account's emptied, and it's running out fast. This is a Hail Mary. He's trying to scare you into giving him what he wants because he knows he has no legal standing. But what if he reports me anyway? Even if it goes nowhere, the investigation alone could. We have leverage too, Ethan interrupted. The trust fund transfer wasn't illegal, but Dad taking money from joint accounts without your consent or knowledge is. It's financial abuse, possibly theft, depending on how the accounts were structured. And the fact that he's now threatening you to extort money? That's a crime, Mom. That's actual blackmail. We can't prove the blackmail. I didn't record the call. Then record the next one. Because there will be a next one. Desperate people follow patterns. He'll call again, probably multiple times. He'll escalate. And when he does, you'll have evidence. Ethan was right. But the next 48 hours were torture. I couldn't focus at work. I jumped every time my phone buzzed. I found myself constantly checking over my shoulder, half convinced Richard would show up despite the distance between us. And then on the evening of the second day, right at the deadline he'd set, my phone rang. I hit record on the app Ethan had installed, then answered. Diane, time's up. Where's my money? I don't have it, Richard. And I'm not giving you what I don't have. Then I'm making the call. Tomorrow morning, your supervisor is going to get a very detailed email about your ethical violations. Do it, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Send your email. Make your accusations. Because I've already spoken to my supervisor about that case. I disclosed the error last year, took responsibility, and it's documented in my file. So go ahead and report something that's already been resolved. Make yourself look even more desperate and vindictive than you already do. It was a bluff. I hadn't disclosed anything officially, but Richard didn't know that. The silence stretched. Then, you're lying. Am I? Are you willing to risk it? Because here's what I know, Richard. You took money from joint accounts without my consent. That's financial abuse, possibly illegal depending on how the judge interprets it. You've just threatened to make false reports to destroy my career unless I pay you. That's extortion. And you did it all in a recorded phone call. I paused, let that sink in. So here's my counteroffer. You sign the divorce papers when they're sent to you. You make no claims to any assets, including Ethan's trust fund. And in return, I don't press charges for the extortion you just committed. You walk away with nothing, but at least you walk away without a criminal record." I could hear him breathing hard. Then, quietly, "I have nothing, Diane. Do you understand that? I have nothing left." And for the first time since he'd left, I heard not anger or manipulation, but genuine despair. It didn't make me forgive him, but it made him human again, briefly. "You did this to yourself, Richard. Every choice, every lie, every betrayal. You built this disaster, and now you have to live in it." "She left me," he said, his voice cracking. "Sasha." The second she realized the money wasn't what I'd told her it was, she left. Took the cash I'd given her for their beach house and just left. I'm in a motel in Key West with a maxed-out credit card and nowhere to go. Part of me wanted to feel satisfaction, but mostly I felt tired. "Come home, Richard. Not to our house, but to Portland. Face what you've done. Work with the lawyers to end this cleanly. Find a job. Start over. I can't. You can. You just don't want to because it means admitting you were wrong." He hung up without responding. I sat in the silence of my living room, the recording saved on my phone, and realized something. I'd been so focused on revenge, on making Richard pay for what he'd done, that I'd lost sight of what I actually needed: closure, distance, freedom from the chaos he'd created. Whether he faced consequences or not, whether he suffered or not, that wasn't my responsibility anymore. If you've been following this journey with me, here's what I learned. Revenge doesn't actually heal you. It just keeps you tied to the person who hurt you. And I was done being tied to Richard Patterson. Check the description box for more stories like this, because what happened next changed everything. Richard came back to Portland 2 weeks later. Not because of anything I said, but because he had nowhere else to go. I learned this through his lawyer, who contacted mine to arrange the divorce proceedings. He was living in our extended stay motel on 82nd Avenue, working as a delivery driver for one of those food apps. The man who'd once managed 7-figure investment portfolios was now dropping off takeout orders to make rent. I could have felt victorious. Instead, I felt nothing. Numbness where the anger used to burn. Indifference where the love used to live. The divorce process was surprisingly quick. Richard had no grounds to contest anything, not after the extortion call I'd recorded. His lawyer convinced him to sign whatever was put in front of him in exchange for us not pursuing criminal charges. The house was mine. My retirement accounts, now protected by court order, were mine. And Ethan's trust fund remained untouched and untouchable. I saw Richard once during those proceedings, a required mediation session in a bland conference room downtown. He looked haggard, older. The tan from Florida had faded to an unhealthy pallor, and his clothes hung loose, like he'd lost weight he couldn't afford to lose. We didn't speak directly. Our lawyers did all the talking. But at one point, his eyes met mine across the table, and I saw something there, regret maybe, or just the exhaustion of someone who'd gambled everything and lost. When the session ended and the papers were signed, I walked out into the Portland drizzle and felt lighter than I had in months. Not happy exactly, but free. Ethan flew back to Seattle a few days later. Before he left, we sat in my kitchen, the same kitchen where I'd found Richard's note, and talked about what came next. "I still can't believe he did it," Ethan said, shaking his head. Like, intellectually I knew. I saw the evidence, I watched it happen. But part of me keeps waiting for the dad I used to know to show up and explain that this was all some horrible misunderstanding. "That dad doesn't exist anymore," I said gently. "Maybe he never did, or maybe he changed. Either way, we can't keep waiting for him to become who we needed him to be." "Are you okay, Mom?" "Really?" I thought about the question. Was I okay? I'd been betrayed by my husband, financially devastated, threatened, and forced to rebuild my entire life at an age when I thought I was settled. But I was also still standing, still employed, still had my integrity, my home, my son. "I'm getting there," I said. "I'm getting there," I said. Some days are harder than others. But yeah, I think I'm going to be okay. Ethan reached across the table and squeezed my hand. "You're the strongest person I know. You know that, right?" I laughed, but my eyes were wet. "I don't feel strong. I feel like I've been hit by a truck and I'm just still walking somehow. That's what strength is, Mom. Not being unbreakable. Just keeping going even when you're broken." After he left, the house felt quiet again. But this time, the silence didn't feel wrong. It felt peaceful. Mine. I started making changes. Small ones at first. I repainted the bedroom, something I'd wanted to do for years but Richard had always vetoed. I rearranged the furniture. I turned his old home office into a reading room, lined the walls with bookshelves, and filled them with all the novels I had been meaning to read. I joined a hiking group, started taking photography classes, reconnected with friends I'd lost touch with during the years when my marriage had been slowly suffocating me. And slowly, I began to remember who I'd been before Richard, who I still was underneath all the hurt. 3 months after the divorce was finalized, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Diane, it's Richard. I should have hung up, but curiosity kept me on the line. What do you want? Nothing. I'm not calling to ask for anything. He paused, and I heard traffic in the background, the sounds of a city. I wanted to apologize. Really apologize, not the bullshit excuses I gave before. What I did was unforgivable. I know that. I destroyed our marriage, betrayed your trust, stole from our son. I was selfish and delusional, and I hurt the 2 people who love me most. And I'm sorry. I waited, but he didn't continue. Okay, I said finally. Okay, that's it. What do you want me to say, Richard? That I forgive you. I don't. Maybe someday, but not now. You shattered 23 years of my life because you were having a midlife crisis and thought a younger woman and a pile of stolen money would make you happy. You can apologize all you want, but it doesn't undo what you did. I know. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I just needed you to know that I'm aware of how badly I fucked up. For what it's worth, I'm in therapy, trying to figure out how I became this person. Good. You need it. I meant it. Not for me, but for him. Are you doing okay? Financially, I mean. Getting by. The delivery job is humbling, but it pays the bills. I'm looking for something in my field, but with the gap in my resume and the circumstances of why I left. He trailed off. It's harder than I thought it would be. I felt a flicker of something. Not sympathy, but empathy maybe. The understanding that life had consequences, and Richard was finally facing his. I hope you find something. I really do. Diane. His voice softened. I saw on Facebook that you were hiking Mount Hood last weekend. You looked happy. Really happy. I'm glad. You deserve that. It was such a small thing, that observation. But it meant something that he'd noticed. That he could be happy for me, even in the middle of his own misery. Thank you. After we hung up, I sat with the conversation for a long time. Richard's apology didn't change anything. It didn't erase the months of pain or the betrayal. But it did offer something I hadn't expected, closure. The understanding that he knew what he'd done and was living with the consequences. I didn't need him to suffer more. I didn't need revenge anymore. I just needed to keep building the life I wanted, free from the weight of anger and resentment. If you've ever had to forgive someone, not for them, but for yourself, you know how hard it is. How it feels like you're letting them off the hook, even though you're really just putting down a burden you're tired of carrying. That's where I am now. Still healing, still figuring things out, but no longer consumed by what Richard took from me. I'm focused on what I have left and what I'm building. The thing about betrayal is that it teaches you who you really are. When everything you thought was solid turns out to be built on sand, you find out what you're actually made of. And I discovered I was made of stronger stuff than I'd given myself credit for. 6 months after the divorce, Ethan called me with news. Mom, I got a promotion. Senior developer position. It comes with a significant raise. Ethan, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you. Thanks. And listen, I've been thinking about the trust fund. That money was supposed to be for my future, but I'm stable now. Making good money. I don't need it all. So I want to give you half. $120,000. It's not technically your money, I know, but it should be. You and Dad contributed to it equally, and he took everything else. This feels right. Ethan, no. That's your security. Your future house down payment. Your wedding fund, your... Mom. His voice was firm. Let me do this. Please. You've sacrificed so much for me my entire life. Let me give something back. I cried. Not sad tears, but overwhelmed, grateful tears. I don't know what to say. Say yes. Say you'll take the money and do something amazing with it. Travel. Renovate the house. Invest it. Whatever you want. Just say yes. So I did. And a week later, $120,000 appeared in my account. Money that Richard had tried to steal, that Ethan had protected, and that now represented not what was taken from me, but what was given back. Not by the man who'd betrayed me, but by the son who'd saved us both. I didn't spend it right away. I sat with it, this unexpected windfall, and thought about what I actually wanted. Not what Richard had wanted. Not what society expected. What I wanted. And I realized I wanted to see the world. I'd spent 23 years building a life around someone else's dreams. It was time to chase my own. I booked a trip to Italy. Solo. 3 weeks of art and food and architecture and sitting in piazzas drinking wine without anyone else's schedule to accommodate. It was terrifying and exhilarating and exactly what I needed. On my second day in Rome, I sat in the Pantheon and watched light pour through the oculus, and I thought about Richard. Not with anger, but with a kind of distant gratitude. His betrayal had freed me from a marriage that had stopped serving either of us years ago. It had forced me to rediscover my strength. It had brought me closer to my son, and it had led me here, to this moment of perfect solitude and peace. I pulled out my phone and took a photo of the light, posted it to Instagram with a simple caption. Sometimes the worst thing that happens to you leads to the best thing. Keep going. Yellow heart. The responses flooded in. Friends I'd thought had abandoned me during the divorce. Colleagues. Even a few strangers who'd somehow found my profile and resonated with the message. And buried in the comments, I saw one from a name I didn't recognize at first. R_Patterson_2025. It was short, beautiful photo. Glad you're finding peace. Richard. Watching from whatever motel room or studio apartment he was living in now. Seeing me thrive in his absence. I could have blocked him, deleted the comment, but instead I left it. Let him see that I'd moved on. That his attempt to destroy me had failed. That I was not just surviving, but living fully in ways I never had when I'd been trying to keep him happy. That night, I had dinner at a small trattoria in Trastevere. The waiter was friendly, the pasta was perfect, and I sat alone at a table for two and didn't feel lonely at all. I felt complete, whole in a way I hadn't felt in years. My phone buzzed with a text from Ethan. How's Rome? Perfect. I typed back. Absolutely perfect. Good. You deserve perfect, Mom. Remember that. I do remember. Every single day. Here's what I want you to understand. If you're listening to this story from wherever you are, whether you're watching from your living room, your car, your late-night scroll through YouTube when you can't sleep, betrayal doesn't have to define you. What someone else does to you, no matter how cruel or devastating, doesn't determine who you become. You get to decide that. Richard tried to take everything from me. My security, my trust, my money, my future. But the things that actually mattered, my integrity, my relationship with my son, my capacity for joy, those he couldn't touch. Those were always mine. I'm not going to lie and say I'm glad it happened. I'm not glad. I'm sad for the years I lost believing in a marriage that was already over. I'm angry at the betrayal and the theft and the callousness. I'm disappointed in the man I thought I knew. But I'm also grateful for the woman I discovered in the aftermath. The one who's stronger than she realized, braver than she knew, capable of rebuilding everything from scratch and making it better than it was before. Richard's in Portland now, working his delivery job, living in his small apartment, dealing with the consequences of his choices. We don't talk except for the occasional text about logistics, tax documents, insurance paperwork, the mundane details of untangling 2 decades of shared life. He's dating someone new, I've heard through mutual acquaintances. Someone age-appropriate this time. I hope it works out for him. I genuinely do. Not because I care about his happiness specifically, but because I've learned that other people's happiness or suffering doesn't affect mine anymore. Ethan is thriving in Seattle. He's been dating someone for a few months, a graphic designer named Maya who makes him laugh and challenges him and treats him well. I met her last month when they visited, and watching them together, seeing the easy affection and mutual respect, I thought, this is what love should look like. Not the slow erosion of self that my marriage became, but this building up of each other. As for me, I'm living in my house that's finally just mine. I'm planning another trip, Greece this time, maybe Croatia after that. I'm up for a promotion at work. I've started writing. Nothing serious, just a journal about the experience, processing everything that happened. My therapist says it's healthy. I think it's necessary. Some days are still hard. I won't pretend otherwise. I still get angry sometimes, usually at unexpected moments. I'll see a couple holding hands and feel a stab of something like grief for what I thought I had. I'll hear a song that was ours and remember the good years, the ones before everything soured. But those moments are becoming less frequent, less intense. Mostly I feel free. People ask me if I'll date again. Maybe someday. But right now I'm dating myself. Learning what I like without having to compromise. Discovering who I am when I'm not defined by being someone's wife. And it turns out, I'm pretty interesting on my own. The trust fund that Richard tried to steal became a symbol of so much more than money. It represented Ethan's foresight, his protection of us both. It represented the fact that Richard didn't win, despite his best efforts. And when Ethan shared it with me, it represented the kind of love that actually matters, the kind that gives without expecting return, that protects without seeking credit, that shows up in actions, not just words. Richard called me one more time, about a month ago. It was late, and I almost didn't answer. But I did. Diane, it's me. I wanted you to know that I signed up for a financial recovery program. I'm dealing with my debt, working on my credit, trying to rebuild. And I wanted to say thank you. Thank you for what? For not destroying me when you could have. For not pressing charges. For letting me have some dignity, even when I didn't deserve it. You could have made this so much worse for me, and you didn't. That says more about you than anything else. I sat with that for a moment. I didn't do it for you, Richard. I did it for me. Because I didn't want to carry around that anger anymore. Because revenge wasn't healing me. But I'm glad you're getting help. I really am. I know I can't fix what I broke. But I'm trying to be better. For whatever that's worth. It's worth something, I said. Maybe not to us, but to whoever's next in your life. Learn from this, Richard. Don't do this to someone else. After that call, I realized something important. Forgiveness doesn't mean reconciliation. It doesn't mean forgetting or excusing. It just means releasing the hold that someone's actions have on your peace. I forgave Richard, not because he earned it, but because I was tired of letting what he did determine how I felt. So here's where the story ends, or maybe where it really begins. I'm sitting in my reading room, the one that used to be Richard's office, with a cup of tea and a new book. The afternoon light is coming through the window in that perfect way that makes everything look golden. And I'm happy. Not in spite of what happened, not even because of it, but just happy, present, content with exactly where I am and who I've become. Richard emptied our accounts and disappeared with his personal trainer. He tried to steal our son's future. He threatened me, manipulated me, and treated our marriage like it was nothing. And for a while I was shattered, but my son saw it coming. My brilliant, protective son moved the money and saved us both. And in the process of surviving Richard's betrayal, I found something I didn't know I'd lost myself. If you're going through something similar, if you're in the middle of a betrayal that feels like it's going to destroy you, I want you to hear this. It won't. You're stronger than you know. The person who hurt you doesn't get to determine your worth or your future. You do. Take your time grieving what you lost. Let yourself be angry. Feel all the feelings. But don't stay there. Don't let their actions become your prison. And if you're the person who's thinking about betraying someone, about taking the easy way out, about destroying someone else's trust for your own gain, please don't. Whatever you think you'll gain, it's not worth what you'll lose. Not just the relationship, but yourself. Your integrity. Your peace. Richard has to live with what he did every single day. That's a heavier burden than any consequence I could have imposed on him. Thank you for listening to my story. Thank you for being here with me through all of this. If this resonated with you, if it helped you feel less alone, please check the description box for more stories like this. Stories of survival, of strength, of people who rebuilt their lives after everything fell apart. Because we're not alone in this. None of us are. And to everyone out there who's still standing after being knocked down, I see you. I'm proud of you. Keep going. The light at the end of the tunnel isn't just real, it's beautiful. My name is Diane Patterson, and this is how I survived my husband's betrayal and found myself on the other side.